Night Vision. Following clues left by our ancestors, we unbury the past to reveal a knowledge of unfathomable value, putting us just a little closer to our own true birthrights. From the secret history of a possible bloodline of Jesus Christ, the secret history of America's founders, to the secret history of extraterrestrial interaction on our planet, here to bring light to the night. Your host for Night Vision Radio, Renee Barnett.
Hi, and welcome to Night Vision, everyone. I'm so glad that you could be here. This is an exciting show for me because I have my research partner, our official historian here on Night Vision, James Martin, joining me tonight to talk about some of the intense research he's been doing into the Knights Templar for a new series of 3 books that shall be coming out in the future. Hopefully not the too distant future. I'm really excited about it. Just wanted to mention a couple things before we get started. Want to remind everyone that we are still looking to support our friend John Yost, who is the producer and director of the film Alien Abduction Answers. And he was also the main subject of the film because we're talking about his own childhood and lifetime experiences that he is on the path to sort out before he was stricken with pancreatic cancer. And he got a pretty intense diagnosis and a super intense battle ahead of him with lots of different groundbreaking therapies. So would like to assist him in being able to get the best care possible so that he can get back on his feet as soon as possible and get back to work because we need good researchers like John Yost, and he's a good man. So if you get a chance, go to GoFundMe.com, plug in John Yost, Y-O-S-T, and give a little if you can. If you can't, just send some wonderful vibes and some prayers, however you choose to do that, to John for his continued improving health and ultimate complete recovery. So thank you for that. John appreciates it. I've gotten so many messages from John when he's been had the time and been able, in gratitude about us continuing to remember him in this way. So please, if you can, give. I know it's hard out there, believe me. I completely get it. So at least send your good thoughts and prayers. And if you can give $1 or $2 or even a little more, go to GoFundMe.com and look up John Yost. Thanks so much for that. Now, I think I ought to bring on James before the next bit. Oh, actually, come on, James. First, before we mention what's going on tonight in the skies and for the next several days, I want to just advise everyone that we are going to be releasing, or I should say publishing, the first KGRA newsletter this week. And it's a newsletter that goes out strictly to the members in the beginning with updates, what's going on, upcoming events, stories from our hosts of their personal experiences, and other things that are going on in the news, like the congressional hearings, things like that. We'll be covering those in the newsletter. So watch your inboxes, members, this week, and you'll get it first. And then at some later time, I'm not sure what the gap time will be, it'll be posted on the website for everyone to see, but you guys will get it first. Hey, James.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's well.
Well, I tell you, I'm very happy to have you. I miss you when you're not here. And it's a lot more work, of course, for me when you're not here. So That's neither here nor there, but but anyhow,
It's usually a lot more work when I'm not here as well, from my perspective. But there we go.
exactly. Well, that's usually why you're not here because you are
Usually,
working.
yeah.
So you don't get a break either way. But anyhow, we were talking just before air about the uh, meteor shower tonight. Well, it actually is already started. Should be very good tonight, peaking tomorrow night and Sunday night, and then going on forward to August 24th. But where do you have to be to see those, James? Could you
Well,
like see?
I'm glad you brought it up because it's not often that I like talking about my qualifications and academic side, but for this
That?
one, I studied astronomy with astrophysics at A level and aced
What?
it. And yeah.
I didn't
Uh,
even know that. What else
did
do
you
you
not?
know about you? Probably a secret agent or something.
It's up on my wall. But yeah, what we've got, and
There's
it's
like 15 at least different diplomas up there. How am I going to read every single one? I don't have that kind of time.
like a museum piece, like a museum piece. But it's so rare that I actually get to talk about what is my love, which is astronomy. So we will keep it brief as ever. The Perseid meteor shower. It's obviously named after Perseus and that constellation and all of that. So there's a diagram that's just come up on screen, but for those who are listening as opposed to watching, really the best time to go and view the Perseids is if you're in the UK, it's going to be the 11th of August, the 12th of August, and 13th. If you're in the US, the 12th and the 13th. And it should be, if you've got clear skies, the moon is out of the way. So you will be able to see quite a bit of the heavens, hopefully weather permitting. Now,
can I ask a question
sure.
about that picture? Okay, you obviously it's going to be in the northern hemisphere, but and maybe this is a stupid question, I don't know, but as you go northward, like for instance, if someone is in the southern United States and someone else is in upstate New York, like our producer Bill will be tonight, does he have a better view? Or does it make that much difference?
It doesn't. It doesn't make too much difference. You will see a little bit more of a concentration if you're on the Mexican border. You're probably going to see less than you would. But really, with anything, if you're looking, with anything, if you're looking at the heavens, what you need is clear sky. Well, firstly, clear skies, humidity. Hopefully lower than higher. But crucially, it's the clear sky things. And the Perseids, from memory, you're talking about 50 to 150 meteorites dropping into the Earth's atmosphere. Earth is moving in the tail of a comet known as Swift-Tuttle. And we're moving into the tail of that, and we have been since July, by the way. So if you're really busy and you can't make the concentration of meteorites that we're going to see between the 11th of August and 13th, don't worry too much because you'll still be able to see some of it up until around the 1st of September.
Wow.
The key thing is, go and spend half an hour outside at night. Make sure that the neighbors think that you're really weird, where you're just looking up at the skies. And of course, make a wish. And there's a brilliant picture here of from, I think, the International Space Station of just one of the meteorites descending into the Earth's atmosphere. So it should be a very good show. There's plenty of other meteorite events. You know, you've got the Omniids on top of the Perseids, pretty much monthly, but this one should be a really good show for us all. Crucially, because the moon's out of the way.
What about time-wise? I mean, is it just when it's dark, go outside?
Pretty much. I mean, of course, I could have a look at the almanac of when it peaks and what have you.
Right.
But my message is just let's keep it very simple. If it's dark, just go and have a look. Remember what I've said. 50 to 150 meteorites in the hour. So the chances of you seeing something descending to Earth or burning up in the atmosphere is more likely. It is quite high, actually. I would suggest.
Yeah. What about in the city? I mean, I wonder. Not everyone can get out to a dark spot.
And that,
like occasionally I can, see the International Space Station from my backyard when it's passing over, or when it's in the right position. So I wonder if there's a chance I'll still see some from the backyard.
Suppose if you're in the suburbs, you should be fine. I mean, what I was just going to say is don't get too disappointed if you see something in the corner of your eye and you go, I've just missed it. That will happen.
It does.
Just be patient. But if you live in the suburbs, unfortunately, the key problem with seeing the heavens is light pollution. So if you live in a city centre, the chances are you're less likely to see something. But Renee, you should be fine. My message is really simple when it comes to astronomy and the heavens generally. For tens of thousands of years of our evolution, it's been the entertainment system for us all. And we should perhaps look up a little bit more often than we do. So go give it a try. It doesn't cost anything. You're not going to have to go and swipe your credit card, and some cosmic cash machine thing. It's free, which usually gets people's ears perked up. Just go and have a look.
I know there are some places here in the Los Angeles area where people do go. I remember a few times when we've been having these kinds of astronomical events, I've gone out to what's called Little Tujunga Canyon, and you always see there's always people out there, usually people with their dogs, people with lawn chairs, with their little ice chest, and it kind of becomes like a community event, like a little party. And of course everyone's in a good mood and happy because they're waiting for and then they're shouting and pointing out and everything. It's quite fun, if you find any of those dark spots, because you're not going to be by yourself out there. I guarantee you.
I've got a super duper telescope, and sometimes take out, and you'd be surprised just how many times a car drives by and they stop and then, can we get involved? Because it is a really communal sort of activity. It's it's good fun. So get involved, go and have a look and see what else you can see.
Yeah, and I think that before we get into tonight's subject matter, which is something I know everybody's going to be interested in, everyone loves the Knights Templar, and so we're going to be talking about them tonight. Unfortunately, we're going to be talking about the beginning of the end of the Knights Templar, but it's invaluable information, and I dare say some of it you've probably not heard before. Before we get into that, I am remiss in that I do not have here at my desk the copy of James's first book that's been released already. The books were, there we go. It's called Uncharted, A Rediscovered History of Voyages to the Americas Before Columbus, written or co-written by our wonderful late friend Tim Wallace Murphy, who we love and miss, and James Martin. who's sitting right before you. So it's a great book. And if you like it, I guarantee you're going to like this new 3-volume book set of books that's coming out about the Templars that is strictly James's work. And I know that he's poured his heart and soul into this, and it's just going to be amazing. Of course, I have the privilege of being able to read stuff before it actually hits the book stands. So I already know how good it is and the kind of things. I mean, it not only are they good reads, but they're going to live as great reference books for every researcher who's interested in the Knights Templar and related topics, because it encompasses a lot during and before, during, and after the Knights Templar. So we talk about the run up to the Templars, how they formed, what they did, how it started all coming apart, and where they ended up. So it's going to be complete. I don't believe I know of anyone who's ever really done this precise thing before. So
I most certainly am not going to be talking about in the trilogy the Crusades to the Holy Land, because it's been done to death.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those. It really is the beginning, the end, and the impact that we have today. I will, of course, be mentioning the Crusades, because that's where I drop off in at the end of the first book of the trilogy. But if you're interested in looking at Crusader history, there's plenty of other books. This really is about how and why they formed. And I think this evening it's book 2 of the
now
trilogy.
this book is not yet available, guys.
It's not. This is number 1, which is order of magnitude. The one that we're talking about this evening, though, is out of order. They're not available just yet, but this is the downfall of the Knights Templar. So what I thought I would do, just for everyone, is give you a little bit of a flavour as to some of the information that's in there.
I mean, what you said is so great, because you're right. We kind of all know the Crusade bit, and naturally you have to mention it, but you don't have to go into depth on that because we're all kind of familiar with that. But the great thing about this is you're bringing new information to the table. And I'm not comparing the two works at all, believe me, but when we did the film Bloodline, we honestly didn't imagine that we would be solving anything. But what we wanted to do was bring new information out. We wanted to spark the conversation. And that it did. It sparked it all kinds of ways. Some of it I might not have enjoyed so much. But this is going to do the same thing in that respect. It's going to create a buzz because of the new information. And I'm sure there'll be people trying to rip some of it apart. And
I hope so.
I hope so too, because I know how well researched it is and sourced and everything. So it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to see how it, how it bursts onto the scene, because I think it's going to be a really big deal. And I think it'll be, one day part of your legacy. I really do. So,
well, thank you for those kind words.
Well, you can pay me later.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think you'd mention that bit.
Oh, that's right. I wasn't supposed to mention that. No, honestly, you know how I admire your work, so there's no joke about that. But so tonight, let's get into the Knights Templar, that the mysterious fighting monks that we're all so enamored with. I mean, I think they kind of evoke sort of a romanticized legend. And I wonder, how much of that is true, and how much of it is just,
Well,
confection.
the Templars one day were as day to day as going to the supermarket. And then if you imagine the next day, there's no supermarkets. That's the genuinely across Europe, that's the state of play. No one can believe that this order that has been part and parcel of day-to-day life for a few centuries, there were other orders as well, is just ceased. It's gone. And I think with that, you end up with a lot of the romanticism that comes with the order. I think you also get the mixing of the Templars with the Arthurian legends, and it was chivalry. There was all of this, and in many many ways, and I should just mention the last book is Last Orders. The Templars haven't really ever left us. It was so shocking. That's Friday the 13th we know about, but it was so shocking that we still refer to them today when we think of the Holy Grail and we think of Arthur. We in the back of our heads tend to go, a Templar knight. We can see the red cross and we can see all of this. So in many ways, I mean, not to mention the computer games that are out there, Assassin's Creed, where the Templars are the bad guys, and and all of the rest of it. They're very much still with us today, and there's a lot of orders who claim descendancy from them. But we've got to go to why did they suddenly stop?
Can I just ask a question here real quickly? You said, they were just as much a part of daily life as, going to the supermarket or whatever. So how were they seen as a part of daily life? I mean, were they a part of daily life like we know we've got a police department or an army, or were they part of actually involved in people's daily lives in some way?
So when they started, they had nothing. They were, ultimately trying to, Christianity was in flux. There's then this crusade to try and unify Europe behind one banner, to get rid of paganism and all of this. And alongside some other orders, they needed a lot of cash, food and clothing and all of that to support their endeavors in the Middle East. And elsewhere, and in Spain for that matter, something that we tend to forget. So what happened really with them is they had some land donated, a lot by secular lords, and this is a exclusive, by the way. This hasn't been shown on TV or radio, but curiously, a bit of land donated by a few Jewish landholders in the south of France. And this, I apologize for the quality. This signature was not designed for computers because it's about 700-800 years old. But this is a signature. It's a transcribed copy, of course, of a signature from a Jewish landholder donating land to the Templars. Why that happened is another show in itself. But the reason that I'm mentioning this is these bits of land needed people to work it. This isn't the police force where you've got a or the cop shop, whatever you want to call it, on the corner, because you don't find police officers generally, tilling the land, do you? So that is one of the things that makes them stand out and makes the orders generally, the Hospitaller and all of this, stand out, because they are employing people in a very cooperative fashion, actually. So when we talk about the Templars, we're including, and I'm going to mention the name, John the Shoveler, nearly. Who's yeah, it didn't sound as good, but you've got John, you've got John and Jane, who are clearing up muck, turning the land, sewing, stitching, on top of pastoral farming. They're clothiers, they're blacksmiths. I mean, there's an entire industry supporting the Templars, bakers, and what have you. Sending
are
goods.
They also considered Templars, or?
Well, yeah. Why
obviously
not?
They're not knights.
They're not knights, and this is where what we need to just distinguish here is the Templar order was disbanded. It also included knights. So when we say Knights Templar, we're talking about a very thin slither. I mean, one knight, just for example, would have 10 men at arms, let's say. You would have pages, you would have an entire support structure under one knight. So they're wholly integrated into societies where they're established. So it's shocking, what am I going to do for work? It brings me on to the next tale. So what was going on there? And there's this great story. This is in northern Spain. And I'm not going into names, dates, and details. I'll just tell you the story of the nephew of a retired Knight Templar who goes to a commandery. Well, I'll name it Masdeo commandery, which has been taken over by the hospital. All of that. And they've been taken over by the hospital. They go over, the nephew goes over to the commandery and he collects a pension. So this is a pension for, for work, old age and all of that. And I thought that was fascinating. Really, really, really interesting stuff to see. So, yeah, they really are part and parcel of day-to-day life. And that is one of the reasons why the end of the order is really so shocking in Europe, and really more shocking in France. I'm sure we'll get into how they came to an end in other countries too.
I muted myself. I was trying not to make any noise. I forgot to turn myself back on. But now I'm wondering, you're talking about, okay, so the Templars were not just knights, they were not just soldiers. They were the people that, surrounded them, the people in the village. And did they tend to be like in groups and in a village, or, like a whole village? What made them Templars?
Oh,
what was the difference between them and the next guy on the street?
Well, just who they work for, I suppose. So what you've got is...
What about belief system?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting, because the Templars were a Catholic order at the end of the day. They were the Pope's private army. But we do know, and again, we can evidence that there were different religious beliefs within the order. Not suggesting everywhere, but certainly if you look in the south of France, it is next to impossible to believe that there isn't some Jewish Templars, as in fact some Muslim Templars too. There's some interesting ideas. I'm exploring it that Salah may in fact have become an honorary member of the
Oh
Knights
my
Templar.
gosh.
But we just bring it right back round. Land is donated to the Templars. Sometimes that land had a building on it. Sometimes they built a structure which should really be called a preceptory, a commandery, in other words. And then you would have around there, you would have the preceptor who's in charge, and then you would have a lot of land to farm, and you need people to do that. So that's the notion. And the way that they're making money is selling bits of food, selling, whatever it is that they've made to support what's going on in the Middle East. Now, when the Crusaders are booted out of the Middle East, that's where it begins to get just a little bit more interesting. There's a sort of question, well, we've spent so long in the Middle East fighting, these crusades. What is our purpose now? And it seems that Templar activity really began to focus a little bit more on financing. There was a tradition, for example, I was just reading before we went on air, of some Jewish families in Britain who had lent vast sums of money to, I think it was King Richard II and Henry III. And of course, when that family died and the debt was passed over, they just went and seized their assets. So there was a tradition at the time of just stealing, basically, assets and all of this. So, of course, when the Templars are disbanded...
By the Templars?
No, by...
Of the Templars.
By royalty and all of this. So it's not too surprising when the French king decides, because he's broke, I know, I'll, nick, steal Templars' lands that'll cure me of my debts, but he didn't really get anything. Certainly didn't get any of the treasure or money, and that, of course, is another reason why people are interested in all of this. So, apologies for everyone. If we're listening, to how the Templars come to an end, but you've got to consider how shocking this event is. Some people hated the Templars, by the way. William of Tyre, writing before they disbanded, says how arrogant they are. They're really full of themselves and all of this. So they're not universally liked, by some, but by others they are well respected and all of this. And so the shock is ever more. It's not like it was a universally hated order. It really wasn't.
I got to tell you, I cannot get the image out of my mind of standing online in the supermarket next to a Knight Templar in full mantle, running his stuff across the belt there.
How much is this grail of water?
Exactly. How much for that grail over there?
Maybe. It'd be fun though, wouldn't it?
It would be. I mean, can you imagine just looking next to you and it's, oh my gosh, someone stepped right out of the past. But yeah, it is, the whole romanticized idea of the Knights Templar. I know a lot of it has been sort of added later as, sort of window dressing and, little confection. But is there a real idea of the Knights Templar, a romantic idea that we can hold about their dedication, about their vows, particularly their vows of poverty, and what is it that we can still really admire about those guys?
Well, like with anything, when we're talking about the idea of two knights on one horse. That symbol, by the way, had been around since way before the Knights Templar were even founded. So they commandeered that. And really it was this ideal of, what's the point in becoming richer? So in that way, it's a very biblically pure ideal. In other words, I suppose the question, it'd be interesting to bring them to that supermarket and explain to them that there are individuals who are billionaires. I think they would be a bit bewildered by that. Why?
Yeah.
And then I suppose you'd lull them into a false sense of security and say, but you own billions as well, don't you, as an order? So they are a little bit hypocritical in terms of politics. But
the individuals owned nothing, correct?
That's the idea. So I'll show you. This place is called Kilmorey Nap, and too many pictures that I could show you. But this is where I suspect a small group of Templars ended up after they were disbanded, and could then have ended up at the Battle of Bannockburn, where the number at the minute seems to be that there were 41 Templars at that battle. But I'll just show you one of the stones. So this is a really ornate stone, incredibly ornate. Normally, what you would see is a stone slab similar to this, and it would just have a sword on it.
Yeah.
And the idea was that the sword would be reused by another Knight Templar, but it would be chiseled around, so you just see a sword. And I think on the right-hand side, you can see what it is that I'm referring to. Although the Templar slabs that you see in Tomar, for example, are not as ornate. Now, this slab is exceptionally interesting for me because Maidment, I think his name is James Maidment, who's writing in the late 1800s, does a survey of Templar sites, and he just has this very odd line in his book of Templar sites. There are no Templars in Argyll. Now, I can honestly say from the various clan chiefs, one of which I'm very closely related to, right the way through to people who grew up at Rosslyn, they believe that is utter nonsense. And I just want you to let your eyes adjust, because this is a very, very Templar trick to show something that outwardly looks fine, but the more you look at it, the more you begin to see. If you want some examples of this, go to the Cathedral Church of Chartres or Amiens or anywhere else like this, built essentially by Templars. You'll see what's there. But if you just have a look at where the knight is standing, just above his head is a set square, which is very intriguing because of its Masonic connections. So it could be, I'm not saying it is, but it could be that there is indeed a legacy between Scottish Freemasonry and the Knights Templar. When the Knights were disbanded, it was realised pretty quickly that the French monarch needed them for support, because they got into a lot of stabby time afterwards. Now, what they then do is create a new order called the Garde de l'Ecosse, the Scots Guard. It had the exact same orders as the Templars. It just had a different name. And curiously, it seems a lot of families associated with the Knights Templar, such as the Sinclairs, ended up joining that Garde de l'Ecosse. I just ask you to come back to the stone image for those watching, and then look just beneath where the knight is standing, and you can then see, if I just say it, what looks like a Templar cross. but it's very much embedded. So you're looking at
Yes,
this.
I see it.
So the Hysteric Scotland, as I call them, who I've been in touch with, have said, absolutely not. There's no Templars there. This is just a symbol that's traditional in the area. It's a cross. Anything can be a cross. But, well, it could very well be. I'm not saying I have the answers. I hope people disagree with me. That's how we learn, by the way. However, just in the corner of the chapel is a horrible picture of me. But
oh, it's cute.
We don't need to even look at the hidden symbology.
No, it's just right there.
Because have a look what's there straight in the corner. Now, here's my test for things. If I were to put just those two, and there's many more, by the way, hundreds of them actually, from different ages and what have you. That one itself was from 1348, I believe. But if I were to put them into, I don't know, somewhere in France, somewhere, the Temple of Paris, let's say, and they were discovered, I don't think people would go, oh, well, it's obviously some local carver. I think they would say, well, it's clearly Templar, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other problem is...
I'm sorry. The first cross that you showed that, that had all the other filigree and everything around it. Do you think, was that the original design in order to kind of obscure that? Or was that something they added later to obscure it? Or you think that's just the original design?
No, I think that was the design. I think it was meant to be obscured. Remember, if this was carved, just two quick things. One, we're in an exceptionally rural area with no tradition of blacksmiths. It's very limited. And the reason, because it's poor. If you imagine just how much money it would take to make a sword, these things are worth in today's terms about $1 million. They're the tanks, so don't get rid of the idea of battles being fought Hollywood style with swords and flaming bows and arrows. Try and shoot a flaming bow and arrow. Let me tell you, it'll extinguish itself. Kiss it goodbye. It's, they did have them, but they didn't use them the way that Hollywood suggests. You are not using swords. They're too expensive. People are using farming equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the idea that the sword in the Templar Order was then passed. You would die without a name on your grave slab. You would have this sword, chiseled around it, and then the sword is then passed to someone else. They're very expensive. No one's getting buried with them either, unless it is a ceremonial thing, or they're really showing off that they're wealthy. Wow. So that's just one thing. So where did the sword come from and whatever else? The boat, by the way, just at the top of the...
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
Is a sort of carrack. It's not called that, but it's very typical of Norse, Irish design that was in use in the area in northern Scotland. But yeah, I think that the symbology was pretty much hidden. Oh, we've only got about 15 minutes left, but let's talk about some other symbology. What happened to the knights afterwards? Well, across Europe, there was an intensity in France. They unleashed, ultimately, a period in French royalty where different factions were killing each other, or stabby time, as I refer to it.
Yes.
They then essentially brought back the Templars, gave it the name Scots Guard. In England, the retirement home for knights.
So are you insinuating or straight out saying that the Scots guards that guard the Vatican
Oh
are
no, they're the Swiss guards.
connected. Oh, those are the Swiss guards. That's right. Pardon me.
But the Scots guards, it's a continuation of the Templars.
And then, do they exist today as Scots guards?
They were disbanded because of a little problem around. Remember, they're looking after the French monarchy because they're seen as impartial. They're from Scotland. They're not going to be involved in our politics. There's an alliance between France and Scotland, so it'd be all right. And then someone who's a petulant person, if you read up about her, called Mary Queen of Scots, who was French, it kind of gets a bit, we can't be having any of this because, look, she's Queen of Scotland now and French. There's a huge problem. So it's disbanded effectively around her time. You've got in England, there really isn't a continuation. It's a retirement home for Knight Templar. Essentially some of the properties that the Templars owned went to the Hospitaller, in which case if you were a Templar farmer, well, your new boss is the hospital until Henry VIII gets rid of all Catholic orders and all of that. There's some interesting things that go on, though, in Scotland and England. So I can't show you because this is part of just a completed legal case, by the way, but I was asked to translate for a particular lord, if you recall, a lovely document. And it seems that quite a lot of property that was in the hands of the Templars never got transferred to the hospital anyway. So it's as if they just carried on. Or someone carried on living there, someone carried on operating there. There really wasn't the same impetus in England to obey the Pope because relations weren't particularly strong between the papacy and England anyway. In Spain, the Templars turn into two orders, and crucially, in Portugal, there's one of my favourite spats between King Alfonso and the Pope. And it paraphrase basically says the following: you're not getting rid of the Templars, Pope. You might have escaped your notice, but we still have a crusade here. And we're trying to drive the Moors out of the Iberian Peninsula. We really need the Templars, and there's similar exchanges between the Aragonese and Castilian kings also. Ultimately, there's a sort of middle ground. Well, Alfonso wins the argument. And the Templars can't be called the Templars anymore. They'll be renamed the Order of Christ. And they just carried on. They were meant to change their outfits and all of that. Didn't really. They just carried on as they were. So it is true to say, in many ways, that the Templars founded the Kingdom of Portugal. And you've got this very interesting one. And I'm not suggesting anything about this.
It's very interesting, though.
Yeah, of course it is, yes. And what you have there, translated for you, what you've got is on the outer ring, you've got Rex, King, and then you've got Alfonso. You have the sigillum in the middle, essentially, the official stamp, shall we say.
Wait a minute, you've just blown my mind. I never knew that Alfonso was represented on this.
Yeah, it's just the
oh my God. Well, that makes even more sense then. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yep, and this is the stamp of the Order of Christ, and crucially, in the middle, you've got this such an interesting. The idea is that you can sort of rotate it around and do all of this, but it doesn't quite spell Portugal, does it? If you just have a little look at it, it seemingly could be interpreted as Portugal, the port of the Grail.
Wow.
As opposed to the belief that, Portugal is come from Porto Carle, this small fishing village. Who knows? It's just an interesting argument, just an interesting idea, but certainly something for us all to muse on.
Now, where was that? That was on a document, right?
Yeah. That's the. If anyone wants to look it up, that's one of the founding documents for the Order of Christ.
Oh my goodness!
And you will see the Templar cross. I mean, there wasn't a Templar cross, by the way. I just say this: they used the crosses of the regions that they were in. So the one that we think of as the Templar cross is really the Occitan cross, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
But they did tend to adopt that quite a bit in the south of France and then into Iberia. So you're going to see that cross and you'll go, it's clearly Templar as well.
Right. Especially if you see it on buildings and things, then you know. Okay.
Well, speaking of buildings, I know that we've got some UK listeners. So hi, everyone. I'm really moderating my accent for someone from Cumbria. But anyway, there's a nice little town in England. You want to talk about the legacy of the Knights Templar? I find this absolutely fascinating, and it's a place called Baldock, Baldock, and it's in Hertfordshire. And you might think, what the hell has that got to do with the Templars? Well, they founded it. However, and this is where it just gets, whatever you're thinking right now, everyone, kiss it goodbye, because it's going to take a left turn. So it was founded by the Knights Templar. Interestingly enough, the high school or secondary school in that town is called the Knights Templar School to this day. But Baldock as a name actually comes from the old French name for the city of Baghdad. And yes, Baghdad in Iraq. The old French for Baghdad was Baldac, Baldac. And so Damascus was the furthest that the Templars managed to get into at the Middle East. They most certainly were aware of the significance of that city, which has been one of the most important cities in human history, to be fair. So there we have, the Templars named a British town after Baghdad.
I could absolutely be mistaken about this, but when you said that name, Baldock, something sprang into my mind. There's a cave somewhere in the region there of Rennes-le-Château in France and around there that has some writing in it. And I want to say the word Baldock was in there, but I'll look that up and I'll correct myself next week if that's not the case. Just quite kind of interesting. But the other thing I wanted to mention, James, since we're getting low on time, is you're talking about for our listeners in the UK, also for our listeners elsewhere. We've been talking about putting together a tour of the UK to these Knights Templar locations, or Templar locations, maybe I should start saying. And, so we'll be putting that information up on our website, newrennies.org. Also, we have a tour, that's coming up already in the spring to France. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it's pretty much booked up already. But we will be doing a second tour, which will be also advertising on the New Rennie's website. You want to hit that banner, James?
That's
There
my
we
mind.
go. newrennies.org. And to email us, it's info@newrennies.org. So give us a heads up if you're interested in it and what we're doing. And keep an eye on our website. We're slowly but surely getting it built. You know, we're both doing many different things, so we'll get it together as we go forward. Which I know you hate saying, that's my saying, go forward, but we are going forward on the calendar.
Doesn't feel like it all the time. It sometimes feels like we're going backward.
It does not. I mean, it's like, I've had workers in my house for the last 2 days, and I'm like holding my breath. That I mean, it's just been one thing after another. I know you've been going through a lot of different things too, similar things. And
so, just quick story. I said, I was doing some research, and it's about a few Templars who converted to Islam and ended up, when the order was disbanded, ended up working for the other side, kind of thing. But they were already, they'd already made their pact with God, so they were likely Jewish Knights anyway. Something had happened, and I said, do you know what? That's medieval. What's the point in being an historian if the present's coming back to meet me? Crazy stuff.
Exactly. Well,
so much we could have spoke about, by the way, but I can see that we're...
Maybe we'll do a part 2. Let's
Sure
continue this, next week or whenever we can both be in the same location, meaning in our studio room here.
And look, don't forget, if you want to ask any questions about anything, again, email info@newrennies.org. We'll get back to you. And if you want us to discuss anything, on the show, history or, whatever else, let's do it.
Yeah, we love to hear from you. And we want to get a conversation going, not just on the radio where we're talking at you, but we'd like to talk with you too. We'd like to know your ideas. And if you're interested in any particular event that we're doing, the tours, etc., just let us know and we'll keep you posted. All right, everybody. I think that's it for us. Thank you, James.
Anytime.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.